So they'll be calling you a radical. Everybody's been hitting me up about the monolith, the metal monolith found here in Utah. And ooh, alien life form. It's got to be some new wave artist. It's futuristic. Uh, Here's the answer. Just like when the plane was on the tarmac in Tehran and it had Bank of Utah. Well, who owns the Bank of Utah? The Browning Arms family right here. I talked to Carl Browning 2 days ago. So I love how they play it, and then investigative journalists will do. Let me tell you what this is. It's not that sci-fi. It's not that complicated. So through southern Utah, through that region, these are old human trafficking trails. They're old drug trafficking trails. I mean, the I-15 corridor, the cops used to pull them over, steal the dope, blah, blah, blah. They go clear back Spanish Fork. Little Soldier's buried right here, right next to my dad, here in West Weber, where they put the old Spanish came in. These trails are old. Remember recently where they found the old coins down there in the same place? Supposedly Jim Bridger, 200 years ago, the first white. By the way, my bloodlines was the first whiteys here with Jim Bridger. I go back early, before Mormons, 1822. So, remember they found this Spanish coins? And they dated back forefront Father Escalante. So, recently they found on the wall 1776, right there, by the way, was one of the Spanish explorers was up into there, made it that far into the Box Canyon. Everett Ruiz on King. I used to walk to school with Everett Ruiz, by the way, holding his hand. So let me tell you what this is. So we've known this here for years and years. I remember I used to have a friend who trafficked marijuana in the day back there, back when marijuana was legal in Utah. You just have to buy the federal tax stamp. And they would bring it up through there, grow it. And so what it is, it's a marker someone's put there to guide over. They're flying over. They're flying over, look for the monolithic metal thing, then that's how you'll find it. It's a marker for their drug trafficking trade. You don't think that's very real here. You don't know anything about southern Utah. So that's what it is. There's no doubt in my mind it's a marker for aircraft in the air to identify where they're going to make their drops. Oh, no, they don't do that. Remember when all through the national forest here, they were finding a few years ago the marijuana farms in the national forest all over here in Utah. That was one of the big things that pushed the legalization of it. So you don't think human trafficking goes on through there? Who invented that? I mean, go to the Aguirre House in Old Town. The statue up there, the first Mormon who found the gold at Sutter's Mill, that's my grandfather, my great-great-grandfather. That's him, Abraham Hunsaker the First, the statue there. The Aguirre House. I'll tell you a great story. When I was a kid in San Diego here, my grandparents, we were down there, and I remember I stood up in school, West Weber Elementary, Martha Farm Elementary down there, my grandparents' place. And the teachers, we were talking about history. I was a little kid. I think I was in first or second grade. And we were learning about California, and I raised my hand. I told the teacher that California was an old Latin word for mass murder. And this was nothing but Spaniards came in here and I got in trouble. And my grandpa came to the school that day, and he was talk about a pillar of the community. I mean, it wasn't grandma. I'm like, uh-oh. Boy, he told that teacher off. What are you kicking him out of for? Because he tells the truth, just like the Aguirre House in Old Town. They'll tell you the Aguirre House in Old Town was an orphanage. No, it wasn't. Slave trade. Why do you think it's called Spanish Fork? Why do you think it's called Cache here? Why do you think it's called Wasatch? Hyde, Cache. Who's the savages? I mean, it's been going on for centuries. It's a marker. I'll guarantee it. I'll guarantee it's a marker that was put there by someone. No, it's a clean, nice one, for pilots. Just that's how they found it. This is a pilot, the fishing game over there looking at the big, the non-native animals that are spread out through here. Everett Ruiz right there. Who's he? I used to walk to school with him holding his hand. You know, they found him. You know, I almost started to cry when that legend was outed just recently. You know, and the Navajos, they beat him to death right after that. And the native elder, now that he's the elder, he was a little boy. He says, no, this is where he's at. And they led him to the cave and found his body. And it's been identified from a professor in Colorado, which, and myself, he ran it by me. So, of course, now it's all nuclear waste. Burgess Owens, the new representative there, who beat Ben McAdams, who wanted to pull the funding out of starting open air test. You know, in southern, I mean, they're psychotic in southern Utah. They're insane, by the way. As Ammon Bundy. Of course, he did come out in favor of Black Lives Matter, says the police state, but you don't know crazies in southern Utah and how rural it is. But that's what it is. I mean, it's been going on for centuries. It's a very big industry here through those trails in southern Utah. You know, that's how the so-called illegal, you know, Mexicans get in here. And you don't think they get trafficked through there? Remember the van that crashed right there not very long ago, a couple years ago, and killed dozens of them being trafficked in? That's what it is. It's a marker. It's a marker for one of the two, which is probably the one and the same, for the drug traffic trade. You know, remember when they had the giant meth bust recently here, one of the biggest in the history of the country? For years and years, everybody knew you drove through southern Utah down I-15, you were going to get pulled over. And for years and years and years, people knew that a lot of cops got filthy, stinking rich. They would pull over and just take all the drugs. Say, bye, see ya. I mean, so that's what it is. There's no doubt in my mind. You know, you can go sci-fi, you can go to Alienville, whatever. By the way, I like how they've tried to push nuclear into alienism. That's the sci-fi. That's Hollywood's, you know, nuclear waste right there by where it's at. There's an underground uranium mine that's been on fire for 70 years. And by the way, life excavated, elevated. Moab, the cancer capital of the world, right where it's at. But that's what it is. There's no doubt in my mind because it's easy to spot from there down in that canyon. They don't want people to see it. You know, and they'll say, look for this. You go to this area right here. Look for the marker. Okay, then take a left, you know, on your airplane. Then make the drop here. We'll pick it up. That's exactly what it is. It's a giant industry here. It goes clear back to Little Soldier, like I said, who's buried in the West Weber Cemetery. My great-great-grandfather, the first whitey buried in all Weber County. His last name's Blanch. When they killed Chief Cherokee right here, shot him in the head. Stewart did. You take our elder, we'll take yours. He's the first person, got an arrow through the heart right there. He's buried right there. There's no marker. I remember old Jay told me when I was a little boy, he says, you know, when my grandfather was pushing up, grading this mound, we just drove by Mount Fort up on top of 10th Street in Ogden. And I was telling my grandson, I says, you know, this is an ancient native burial ground. And there's an old folks home on it. And there's a Mormon church on it. The marker there is my grandmother put the marker there. I go all the way back. I mean, I could write 1,000 books about it, but nobody wants to hear anything from me because I'm an anti-nuclear activist fighting for my life of cancer. But that's what it is. It's not sci-fi, whatever. They've put it there, you know, and look for the clean monolith. I mean, because people get that, what it is, because of the movies and the sci-fi. When you see that, that's the drop point. That's the marker, you know, and so it's for air traffic, you know, light aircraft and or people walking, moving dope. Seriously, it's a giant industry here, and if you don't think that's true, you really are ignorant and naive, just like nuclear waste right there. You don't think that kills you? Right there where I was, probably the cancer capital. I can prove this. I'm in the bone, I have leukemia. I'm in the bone marrow transplant center fighting for my life. Full of AML leukemia. I was given 2 months to live 9 years ago right now. Today I was going in and out of a coma 9 years ago. Sent me home to die. Mike Lee kicked me off Medicaid. His father lived down there and died young. He'll tell you that, but he don't care. He still brings in nuclear waste. The LDS East State Bone Marrow Transplant Center, which is one of the most famous leukemia units in the world, Thimble Peterson, my family, doctors, blah, blah, blah. You go in there any given day. That part of the world, there's nobody lives there. Less than 5% of the state's population. You go into that trance and you don't think I know? Oh, I know. HIPAA laws? Fuck their HIPAA laws. Over half of the people in there on any given day, you want to go on a field trip? Let's go. I have permission. Are from southern Utah when they make up less than 5% of the state's population. So that's the story you should be covering, not whether this is Alienville. And it's made the rounds because that's what media does. There's a Nenoch freaking piece out there, unless it's Fukushima, of course. Then we won't talk, or if it's anything nuclear, bring nuclear waste to Utah. Oh no, uranium mines, killing. Won't talk about that. But then it just makes the round. It circulates because there's no investigative journalists. But that's what it is. So everybody, I wasn't going to do a video of this because I'm just laugh, ignore this. But everybody's been asking me. So there you have it. That's what it is. It's a marker that, and are they Mexican or Spanish? Well, what's a Mexican? Spanish invaders who came in and the indigenous people. I mean, by the way, when my family got here in 1822, this was Mexico. Yeah. The capital of Mexico was Monterey, California, though. Yeah. They kicked the Spanish out. Before that, it was called New Spain, Father Escalante. But let me tell you, indigenous people lived here for at least 13,000 years. Ask Everett Ruiz. Like I said, I used to walk to school with him holding hands. But that's what it is. It's not sci-fi. It's a marker for aircraft for drug traffickers. And they do it all the time over there. I mean, they have lots of different... If you ever investigated from county, you'd find more than one. You'd find a lot of stuff like that. That's how they beat the system. That's what they do. It's human trafficking and it's drug trade. It's their markers. That's the trail they use, which goes back, clear back. It's called Spanish Fork for a reason. The Spanish invaders from San Diego all the way up through into Utah to get the gold. Uinta. Ask Brigham Young's son on the Uinta gold mines. I could do a whole thesis on that, but nobody wants to hear anything from me. So that's what it is. So I'll guarantee it. Guaranteed it. Stay tuned.